And we are recording.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to open the annual meeting for today, and the short agenda. All we're doing is appointing officers. So welcome to the meeting. It's good to see everybody, and I'll go ahead and let Kathy take roll.
Okay, and I believe that the statement that you will need is that this is the annual meeting of the Johnson City Public Library Board of Directors.
Oh, yes.
Because of COVID-19 pandemic, meeting virtually and being recorded is allowed by Executive Order 16 by Governor Lee. And so I will call the roll now, and if you would indicate your understanding that this is our official annual meeting by saying yes. David Gamer.
Yes.
Tony Warner.
Yes.
Sarah Davis.
Yes.
Jennifer Dixon.
Yes.
Susie Williams.
Yes.
DJ Swatzel.
Yes.
Scott Jeffress.
Yes.
Georgita Washington.
Yes.
Daryl Carter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so today we are going to be appointing new officers. As we know that Kathy Hall has finished her second term, so that's why she's not with us today. So we're going to open the meeting up for nominations. We need to fill the president's position for the board. So who would, and we already talked about this a little bit, but go ahead, Sarah.
Yes, I would like to nominate Tony Warner as president of the Johnson City Public Library Board, please.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Jennifer seconds. Okay. Good.
Roll call vote.
I would second that as well. And we are also needing to fill one other role.
We can go ahead and, David, if you want to, we can discuss either doing a slate of officers and then vote on them. But now that there's a motion on the table, we'll have to go ahead and vote on them individually. So if you want to call for a vote on that first, and then we can go on to just to vice chair, secretary, and treasurer if you want.
Call for question.
Go ahead, Susie.
Well, I mean, call for question means let's vote.
Oh.
Ma'am. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded for Tony Warner as president. And please say yes if you are in agreement. David Gamer.
Yes.
Tony Warner.
Yes.
Sarah Davis.
Yes.
Jennifer Dixon.
Yes.
Susie Williams.
Yes.
DJ Swatzel.
Yeah.
Scott Jeffress.
Yes.
Georgita Washington.
She's on mute.
She's on mute. Yes. Thank you. Daryl Carter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's unanimous. So Tony, thank you for your willingness to serve, and I'm confident that with your passion for the library, for Johnson City Library, that you will fill that role well. Okay.
I look forward to it.
Yes. And then we need to, Tony was serving as secretary, so now we need to take nominations for secretary.
I would nominate Jennifer.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Take your pick, which one of us?
Okay, so
Who's second?
Sarah has
I apologize.
seconded.
Who's second? Sarah.
Jennifer.
Second? Okay.
Jennifer, are you open to serving as secretary?
Yes.
Okay. Then we will go ahead and take a vote.
All right. David Gamer.
Yes.
Tony Warner.
Yes.
Sarah Davis.
Yes.
Jennifer Dixon.
Yes.
Susie Williams.
Yes.
DJ Swatzel.
Yeah.
Scott Jeffers,
Yes.
Georgita Washington,
Yes.
Daryl Carter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that is also unanimous. So we now have Jennifer serving in that role as the secretary. And I am going to continue to serve as the vice president after I took over recently a few months ago. So do we have any other vacancies? I don't think
And I
we
just
do.
want, Sarah, you're comfortable continuing as treasurer, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you.
Do we need to vote on that again this year? Yeah, so if you, we
Okay.
could do that as a slate, if you
Right.
want.
You need a
So-
nomination for both as a slate.
Okay,
I nominate David to continue as either vice chair or whatever, however we label it,
Right. Vice President.
vice president. Okay.
Second.
Are we doing the slate? Are you also, Susie, saying Sarah treasurer in that?
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay.
I nominate Sarah as treasurer.
I second that for Sarah.
Okay. All right. The motion that I have that I've just written is that Susie Williams has nominated David Gamer vice president, Sarah Davis as treasurer, and we have a second.
Second.
Thank you. All right. And I will call the roll. David Gamer,
Yes.
Tony Warner,
Yes.
Sarah Davis,
Yes.
Jennifer Dixon,
Yes.
Susie Williams,
Yes.
DJ Swatzel,
Yes.
Scott Jeffers,
Yes.
Georgita Washington,
Yes.
Daryl Carter.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Okay, that concludes everything we need to do today in the annual meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and do we have any questions or concerns, comments about any of the appointments today?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second
Second
that.
on that.
Second that.
Okay, Susie says she'll second on adjourning the meeting. Okay, so we will adjourn the annual meeting for today. Thank you for all your cooperation, and thank you for your nominations for these open positions.
Thank you. Before our new chair, Tony Warner, before you start the regular meeting, I'd like to recognize that we have two new board members joining us today. We have Dr. Daryl Carter and Dr. Georgita Washington joining us. Our newest board members, we're so happy you're here. So if you guys don't mind, I know that we can't tell what order we're sitting in. So I'll just, Dr. Carter, if you would start us out and just introduce yourself to the group and tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm Daryl Carter, and I'm excited to be on this board. I'm a tenured full professor of history at East Tennessee State University. I'm a two-time alum of ETSU with a bachelor's in political science and master's in history. I went to the University of Memphis for my PhD in history. I am a political historian. I do everything from the early 20th century to the present. My first book was Brother Bill on President Clinton and the politics of race and class. I am married. My wife, Crystal, works for the United Way. And we have two kids. We have a 19-year-old sophomore at ETSU and a 12-year-old seventh grader at university school. I love to read, love the library, love politics, love sports. It has been a very mean year, I think, for the country. So I'm hoping that, things will improve. And I look forward to contributing to this board and to the library and getting to know all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Dr. Washington, do you want to introduce yourself to us?
Well, I guess so. Georgita Washington, and I currently teach in the College of Nursing at East Tennessee State University. Graduates, first semester nursing students. So I'm the weeder outer because my class is difficult, and you have to make it past mine to get to the rest of them. I'm originally from Charleston, as you know, we were talking about a little bit before, but one of the deacons in my church says, I've been up here coming up on 33 years next month. He tells me I'm from here now. So I don't know about that, but anyway, originally from there. I'm a registered nurse. My background is in critical care and spent somewhere around the 35, 36 years doing that. So when you were talking about your employee just now, that kind of resonated there with me. And yes, he'll be there where he is for a while. I too love to read. I've got stacks of books everywhere. I'm currently reading 2 or 3 at the at the same time, just trying to get through one, and you know, all various types. I like murder mysteries and police procedurals. I don't know what that says about me, but anyhow, I do. I'm a bit into history, and then giving our times here now, I'm really into what's going on in our country. I'm really into a bit of history, both for myself and in trying to educate my friends about life and life, how it was and how it is, and how things are not so much different than they were before. So I'm enjoying that. I too am a sports fan. I will watch almost anything. I was almost desperate enough to watch golf, but I thought I'm not that desperate yet. But football, basketball, baseball, and I'm there. I mean, the seasons overlapped. I am just discombobulated. I don't know what to do. So yes, this has been a mean year, because anytime you come to my house, if the TV was on, it was ESPN. Okay, and that was pretty much it. And now I forget which channel it's on because there's nothing to watch. You know, I like to work out, go to the gym. I miss going with my personal trainer. I'm working in my basement, and I just can't quite get myself to go to the gym just yet. So I'm gonna hold off on that for a little while. My only qualification for being on this board is I like to read, and so I am looking forward to seeing the inner workings of our library. I've got a Kindle. I've got bunches and bunches of books in there, so I don't have to carry around my stacks. So me and the e-library are on good terms there. So I appreciate it. I look forward to working with everyone, and I think it's going to be a fun ride for me because it's going to be learning.
Very good. Thank you. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
And I'll just go around and kind of call everybody out since, like I said, we're not in order. You can't see. So Tony, do you mind to introduce yourself?
Sure. My roots go back to ETSU also. I am retired. I'm enjoying retirement, you guys. So when it's your turn, it's okay. Don't be scared. I did 30 years, well, a little over 30 years as director of the University Center, and I also implemented the campus ID system and all that entails over the years. So I grew up in Oklahoma, had moved around to several universities before finally landing at ETSU, and I'm a Tennessean now, and I agree this has been a nerve-wracking, frustrating, mean time right now, and stressful too. I sometimes are having trouble sleeping just thinking about what happened today or is supposed to happen tomorrow. So it's a time when I'm glad that we were able to still give some of the services of the library to the community, because I think for some people that was really critical. And I'm pleased that Julia was able to manage that. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you and doing some neat things.
Thank you, Tony. Scott?
Sure. So Scott Jeffress. I also work at ETSU. There's a bunch of us in this call. I direct the Rome Scholars Leadership Program, and just finished, I guess I'm starting my 9th year of that. what brought us to East Tennessee. I did not grow up here. Grew up sort of all over the place. Born in Alaska, lived all over the country and overseas. Have been in all 50 states and in lots of places around the world. 22-year Army veteran who retired in 2012, and that's what brought us to Tennessee. Was I had the privilege to lead the ROTC program as my last job in the Army, and then as I was retiring from that in 2012 and trying to figure out what to do next, my family had decided we wanted to stay here. Loved it, liked being on a college campus, and was fortunate that the position I'm now in was opening up about that time. So really, really pleased to be in this area and at the university. Married, Barb and I have been married almost 22 years, or 28 years now, rather. We've got 3 children, a third-year dental student who's in Nashville at Meharry Dental School. We've got a son who's 21 and working locally and hoping to move to Nashville. And then we've got a 17-year-old who's going to be a senior at Science Hill. And so she's pretty low-key about all that's going on in her life. But obviously, another week at home apparently before Science Hill starts. So we're working through that and preparations for college next year. But pleased, I am, other than Daryl and Georgita and the newest member of the board, I think, but really have enjoyed getting to know the other faces on the call. And certainly we have always been big fans of the library and really appreciate all that it means to this community.
Thank you, Scott. Jennifer?
Hey, Miss Georgita. Miss Georgita and I have known each other for quite some time.
Oh.
Used to go to church together. So I'm Jennifer. I work at a market research company called Smarty Pants. So I graduated from ETSU, but seem to be the only one right now who's not working at ETSU. I am married to Stephen, who also does not work at ETSU. But we have 3 sons, a 19-year-old who just transferred from Tennessee Tech to ETSU. So he's home. And I'm not one of those moms who's excited. So we're moving him out soon. And then a 12-year-old who's in 7th grade and a 9-year-old who's in 4th grade. I too am a sports fanatic. ESPN's my channel. All things sports is my thing. So in the interim, I have read lots of books, which has been really nice. I'm learning how to juggle more than one book at a time. My family recently started a book club, but they all read much faster than I do, so that's a little bit of a challenge to catch up. But this being on the board and then the shutdown of everything has, I guess, solidified my relationship with Libby. She and I have gotten along very well, and we have read a lot together over the last few months. Every time something comes out, I'm like, you have it with me. So she's been great, and it's been awesome to be on this board. Very laid back, and all have one mission involved to serve the community.
Thank you, Jennifer. David, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, you're muted.
I'm David Gamer, and my last name is spelled like the opposite. The vowels are opposite the way you say it. So you got to keep that in mind. I'm starting my 2nd term on the library board. I love books. I love to read books, like biography and autobiography especially, but I like to read books, newspapers, anything that's in print I like to read. I use the library probably more than the rest of my family all put together. And we moved here in 2005, and I have 2 daughters. I'm married to Barbara. We've been married for 29 years, and my 25-year-old started medical school yesterday, and my 20-year-old is starting her 3rd year at ETSU in accounting. And I love serving on the board, and I look forward to serving as an officer, and I hope that I learn a lot. and it's good to meet all of you.
Thank you, David. Sarah?
Hi, well, I'm Sarah Davis, and I've been involved with the library. I hate to tell you how long because it puts an age on me, but I think it's about 50 years. When my children were like I was cradling them, they were infants. I came to Maine Williams and then began to volunteer and help when we built the other library, and worked with the summer reading program, helped John Hart when he was there start a program called Third Thursday, and just really loved being involved with the library because I love to read and I love books, and I like to just hang out with people who like the same thing. So I served as president of the Friends of the Library for several terms, I think. That was a long time ago. And later I became the director of the Johnson City Area Arts Council for 19 years. And in that time, worked with the 5 counties that we served and did a lot of work with the city. Later, I helped start the Public Art Committee, and glad to say it's really flourishing downtown and all around. Worked with the city and helped develop the parks, Founders Park and the art sculpture there. And some of the design work for the park that is below the library. Let's see, I graduated from ETSU. Well, I went to school in North Carolina, also got my master's at ETSU. Taught there and ran a grant program for a number of years. And let's see, now I am in 2 book clubs, president of Fortnightly and Questers. Gosh, this sounds like a long litany of things. One of the things that I really enjoyed doing recently was the Earth Dreams Project, which was held at at Founders Park. That was about 4 years ago. And the library was very heavily involved. And we had our meetings there, but with a lot of people, with the Boones Creek Watershed, with the Public Art Committee, with lots and lots of groups. So I think of myself as kind of a community collaborator, coordinator, and networker. And now I'm on several foundation boards, and I take courses and read lots of books. And that's me. Oh, and I'm married. I've been married for 52 years to the same guy, and we have 3 daughters and 2 grandchildren. So that's my history. I look forward to getting to know new board members and working with everybody in our new beginnings. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Susie, do you want to tell us a little about yourself? Susie?
Oh, I didn't hear you.
You're fine.
Yes. I've been a resident of Johnson City now this summer for 50 years, where Jack practiced orthopedic surgery. I brought him from Mississippi. We met, worked on the same cadaver in med school, and that's how we got together. I'm from Unicoi County and grew up there. And my family and most Irwin people did not have television till I was 14. So I would walk 4.5 blocks to the Irwin Library and carry books home every week. So I started early reading at the library. I currently am representing Washington County. I'm a District 9 commissioner, and I have been president of East Tennessee Republican Club, which started from scratch and we now have 400 members. And but many and many of my friends are on the other side, and that doesn't matter to me at all. We're Americans first. I just happen to be working in that particular club. I have 4 grown children and 6 grandchildren, 3 of whom we finished raising. One's in Portland after his master's at Duke in chaplaincy. And the oldest one is managing American Eagle at the Pinnacle. She is 30. And Jacqueline has just moved to Nashville. My son is on the Johnson City School Board, and both my husband and I had terms on that board. So it's been our privilege to be very civically involved. One of my greatest things that I'm proudest of was being on the Mountain States Foundation Board that decided Johnson City and this region needed a children's hospital. And so I was on the fundraising committee till we could build Nicelonger. And then the other thing that I am sad to say, I helped get the Children's Advocacy Center started. And it's sad to me that some years we've had over 500 clients that have been sexually abused in this region, but that has supplied a real need. But as far as reading, I certainly read novels for pleasure, but I love historical biographies. And I'm currently into Alexander Hamilton. But anyway, it's a privilege to serve on this board. The library has always been a part of my life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie. DJ, are you back with us?
I am. Sorry, I got disconnected there for just a few minutes.
That's no problem.
So I guess a little bit about me, DJ Swatzel. Have been back in Johnson City for almost a decade now. Went to ETSU, got a degree in finance there, and I am a financial advisor with Marmo Financial Group here in Johnson City. Been there for 15 years. Married, have 4 kids, ages 8, 5, 3, and 1. I couldn't do it without my lovely wife to take care of most of it. So that helps out greatly. Been on the Ronald McDonald board for the past 6 years. Served in multiple capacities there, from president to treasurer and a few other things as well. Serve on a national committee with the Ronald McDonald House for their investment committee. And so each one of the houses across the country have the ability to invest proceeds that they may have, and I'm serving on that committee as an advisory capacity. From the standpoint of stuff I like to read, a lot of it has to do with my job. So read a lot of financial press, a lot of market things there, always trying to be a student. And so I was brought onto the board through John Hunter, who's on the city commission and had some conflicts based on the meeting times. And so I am his proxy member for the rest of the year. But I've definitely enjoyed learning more, being more involved with the library has been very enjoyable for me for the last 6 months. So definitely proud to be here and help out how I can.
Thank you, DJ. And then there is a person on the call that you all don't know who is not technically a board member or a library staff member. It's Amy Kimani. And Amy, I know I'm not sure how long you've been with us, so do you want to just tell the board members a little about yourself and kind of your role as it relates to the library?
Sure, I can do that. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My name is Amy Kamani. I am the regional director for the Holston River Regional Library. We are a state agency run by the Tennessee State Library and Archives under Secretary of State Trey Hargett. Our job is to work with the libraries. We are the conduit for the materials funds that come from the state. We provide consulting services, IT assistance when needed, and we also are the providers of Reads, Tennessee Reads, and the Tennessee Electronic Library. So my job is I come to board meetings to just answer any questions from the state level and take any concerns to Nashville for you all. So I am available to help with anything you need, any questions you have. The only thing I'm just going to mention real quick, in case I do get cut off, because I do have to go to another meeting here in a minute, but we help out with the tech grant. We offer the LSTA tech grant to the libraries, and that the due date for that has changed. It is now August 10th, in case you hadn't seen that. So, but I am here to help with anything you need. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Thank you, Amy. And I think you guys know me, and I'm not sure, Kathy, do you want to quickly introduce yourself? I'm not sure that I know who you are and kind of your role.
I am Kathy Griffith. I've been here, it'll be 29 years in this October. I've been married to Ed for 36 years, week after next. Same Ed, same fella. He's great, I love him. I live in Irwin, but this big building over here that I can see from my office used to be the Johnson City Hospital. And so I was born there, and I can actually see where I was born from my office. So I just came full circle. I was graduated from East Tennessee State University in 1985 BC before computers, and I've used typewriters and all that fun stuff, but it's a great place to work. I wouldn't have been here for 29 years if it wasn't. And Sarah and I go way back. So not to Maine Williams. I was at the building that was falling apart, and that was the one right after Maine Williams and right before this one. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful 29 years, and not that much longer till retirement. So Tony, I'll be joining you before too long. It's great to see everybody, and I look forward to working. I love boards. I love being a part of it. And I'm the recording secretary, and that was set by the board many, many years ago. They changed the bylaws to include a recording secretary. So that kind of gives Jennifer a little bit of a break, but she'll be reviewing all the minutes and notes and signing off on those when she feels that they're appropriate. Tony's done a fabulous job with that too, so thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you. I know that it was a chunk of time, but I just really wanted y'all to kind of get to know each other. And I did want to mention too, we got a beautiful card in the mail today from Kathy Hall, and she just wanted to say, "Dear Library Board and staff, what a privilege it has been to serve on the Board of Trustees. I'm so proud of our library and the fine work done by all of you. I will miss being a part of the board, but will certainly continue to be a volunteer and a cheerleader. Thank you for the thoughtful gifts. I will make great use of the gift card, and I'm thrilled to have a book buddy box in my honor. I can't wait to check it out. All my best, Kathy Hall." I know she'll be missed, but she's still texting me and wants to know what's going on in the building and all the latest. So she's still very much involved with our organization, I assure you. But with that, Tony, we can go ahead and jump into the regular meeting if you're ready.
Well, we'll call the meeting to order. And Kathy, I don't think we need to do roll call a second time since it's one recording.
I think that you're fine. We'll be good.
And I want to thank all of you. The last 15 minutes has been great. And I want to tell our new members, I think you set a tone for all of us. I think this has been the best sharing and the best background information. I've learned a lot about our old members from the extent we've talked today. So this has been great, and I'm looking forward to our year and improving and getting it back open for the citizens. So with that, I think our first agenda item is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. You all, I think, have copies of them. Can I have a motion to approve those?
I move we approve the minutes from June.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. I'm going to say that they were approved. And next is treasurer's report.
Okay, the good thing about this report is that this is a draft, and I'm not, of course, asking for approval, but the good thing is that we did end the year in the black as expected. The thing that will happen is that I'm working on information and all of the work that has to be done to have the audit. It starts on August 24th. Tara Fenner from Blackburn Children's in Stegall will be here to do the field work. And generally the board has the audit ready to talk about in September and or October, and then it's up for approval. And it does need to be approved by November 15th so that the corporate 990 can be filed on time, which the deadline is November 15th. But looking at the financial statement, even with being closed for the number of months, we are ending the year with 99.5 roughly % of expected revenues, which is great. Our personnel expenses, because I have to book wages payable, and that's everything from the minute the last payroll was done until June 30. That has to be booked into the old fiscal year, but then I'll back it back out in July because, of course, the wages were paid. That will change that line item just a little. But the thing that I will call to your attention is that all account groups will end the fiscal year under budget. There's no doubt about that. There are going to be line items that are off a little bit, but that was not at all unexpected. And for the most part, if we had been open, we would have ended pretty much where we expected to be. But I'm open to any questions. Like I said, all account groups are well under budget. And the good thing is that personnel is about 2.3% under budget too, which is where you always want to be with personnel because that's the greatest amount of expense. So that's the June operating budget, which again, this is in draft format. And it will come up for a final approval in August when we have the final report. I love questions about money. I can talk about money all day, so stop me now. Okay, the Imagination Library is also draft. This will be, I believe, the final. And for our new folks, we are the local Imagination Library. I'm the coordinator for Washington County, and Celeste Smedley's the database manager. So we're the ones that make sure that all 5,250 children in Washington County gets their Imagination Library book every single month. And the library can do that because we're a 501c3, and that's required to be the local affiliate for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. But most people think that Dolly funds it. She does not for Washington County. She will fund that in the counties in which she has a presence, but this county is funded by the city of Johnson City and Washington County and by private donations. And that's how we operate, and we're going to end the year in a great position so that with a minor cut from Washington County, we should still be in great shape for the new fiscal year. But we are at 96% revenue and only at 90% expenditure. That's simply because Celeste has done an amazing job with getting the books off of the roll where they're undeliverable. And the good thing is too, now we're getting the books so we can donate them to nonprofits, to daycares, to, I think Kathy Hall came and got several to take to places where she's reading. So instead of those books being destroyed by the post office, we're able to get them into the hands of children. We're really excited about that now. And that's it for the Imagination Library, which those are also going to end the year under budgeted amounts, but which is not unexpected. Any questions all about money? No vote, Tony, so that's pretty much it. You're going to have a lot of votes in August on all that money.
Okay. And then we've got some more budget information coming in a few minutes. We don't need to approve these? Is that what?
No, sir. Not at all.
Great. Director's report.
Okay. So we've had a busy month for many reasons. We did have our roof repair was completed over the last month. There's a little bit of finishing work that needs to be done. So there is still some equipment outside of the facility. But by and large, the roof is repaired. And I don't believe that we sustained any leaks since the repair. So we have been able to take all of those books that we had to move from the shelves and put them back on the shelves. So that's good. It's starting to look less like, I don't know, there were just tarps everywhere. It was kind of a mess.
War zone.
Oh, I didn't want to say war zone, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I helped put those books on carts.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. But we are close to completion for that project. We're still waiting for a specific timeline for some guttering that's going to be put on the front part of the building. As you know, our covered walkway works well in just a normal straight downpour, but anytime there's a little bit of wind or if it really starts going, it just comes down in sheets and then blows right on you. So the thought is that some guttering will really help with that problem. So the roof project is being paid for by the city through TIF funds, which is, you know, reserved for schools and educational programs. So the library does technically qualify for that. We have not taken advantage of those funds since we built the building. So we were happy that it was offered to us as a solution for the roof project, which this is the first time it's been replaced in the life of the facility. So far so good. We're glad that the major component of it is done though, because the boom and the clamoring, and it was a little distracting. So we're thrilled. So that is complete. We're working now with the folks from Essex to design some updates for our youth services department. So as you may remember, last year we received a memorial gift from Dr. Robert Clark's estate. And so we want to use a portion of that funding for sprucing up the youth services department. Essex has done incredible work with their design, and it'll end up being a very natural themed space. So think trees, think, of course, pollinators. So there's going to be some bees present. And then instead, because right now it kind of has like a space, like star theme, we really wanted to kind of think about have this beautiful view of Buffalo Mountain. So shouldn't our facility kind of speak to that? And there's a new natural adventure play area being built in front of the facility. So it would be nice to kind of have a continuation between these two spaces. So that's what we're working toward right now with that project. We don't have an exact timeline yet, but hopefully that could be something that could be completed in the coming months. Essex, we've been working on getting designs and plans for what feels like a very long time now. So we're glad that we finally have some renderings and are getting some pricing in and that kind of thing. So I'll give you more information as we get closer to that, but just wanted to make sure that was on your radar. And that was kind of part of a broader hard look at our facility that we were taking last year and are continuing to think about. Right now, we had a staff meeting and we're really thinking about, you know, right now, of course, we're closed and we're limited in what we can offer people. So within what we can do, how much can we do? What more can we do? What needs are not being met in other agencies that we could theoretically do? And how can we think outside of the box a little more and how we translate those services? So we went at our most recent staff meeting, all staff, we really talked about our values and how services and values can translate to tangibles that we can execute. So we have been really focusing on reuse advisory and these book bundles that we're putting together for people. We've advertised in grocery stores for this, putting flyers and shopping bags when people come buy their groceries. We've reached out to several other agencies that are open to see if we can, find out what computers are available for the public so that we know where to refer people, but where could we potentially go to set up like pop-up computer labs for folks who just need to use a computer. So we're really trying to think, like, if COVID is here to stay for a while and things are going to stay kind of as they are, what else could we do safely for the public and also for our staff? So lots of our staff, for those of you who are new to this board, is just like the most creative, intelligent group of people, and their hearts are so deeply in it that it's just like, it's incredible to see them buzzing and thinking about what we can do. And so that's kind of where we are right now. Last month we did see, you know, our circulation was pretty good. It was about 50% of what we would usually do in June, but that still meant like we circulated over 14,000 physical items with the building closed. So just in curbside, 14,000 items is very good. We did circulate over 13,000 digital items. So we're about 49% of our circulation last month was digital. And so it's great to have a full month of data because we're in a new fiscal year right now. So one of the things you'll see later is that within our budget, we're really heavily funding our digital collections. Right now, the schools are sort of designing their reopening strategies and assessing how many remote, you know, the Johnson City Schools recently sent out a little thing and you have to commit by the 24th to either doing digital or in school, right? And so once all that is kind of complete, we can find out from the schools how we can further support them. It's hard to get really concrete information about what resources they need when they're not even really sure yet. Until they get this information back, we're not sure how we can help them. So once we get to that point, we're looking at ways that we can help more families get access to materials, whether it's print materials through curbside, whether it's bringing more materials out to other locations, sort of in a traditional bookmobile way, or whether it's creating some sort of digital access card for the students. So we're hoping that that's a need that we can help meet specifically for families, being mindful of this. This is going to be a school year that is like no other, and it's going to take a multifaceted community approach to help support these children and families right now. So that's kind of where we are. I mentioned earlier, our tech manager is out, so we are trying to establish our sort of get our grounding right now, get our footing back as far as IT, but we're getting there. We have some passwords and things that we needed. We have a computer lab that needs to be deployed. Part of our reopening strategy relies on redeploying some self-checkouts to different parts of the building. So we're trying to figure out how to make that happen. Another component of our current strategy in our current phase is that we have staff working all around the building. And that means their computers and their telephones are also all around the building. So all of that tech and IT will have to be brought back. And unfortunately, this is the person that would usually handle those projects. So, you know, I think, and the staff have been incredibly patient and we're getting creative and, you know, I know just enough IT to be dangerous or helpful. Jury's out, but hopefully it'll end well for that. So I know that's kind of like a lot. I feel like there's just a lot happening, which is bananas because we're, you know, we're closed, but it's, the staff keep joking about how they thought they were going to catch up on so much and we're just so much busier than they thought we were going to be right now. Curbside is going well and we've just got a lot going on. So that's the main part. We'll talk about the reopening itself a little bit later. But is there any questions about our current status that I can answer for y'all or things happening?
Julia, on average prior to COVID, what would have been our ratio between physical resources and electronic resources?
Sure. So typically, like last June, in June 2019, we checked out we checked about, well, I can tell you, 46,000 print materials and about 10,000 digital materials. So it's definitely skewed. We knew that it would change. Usually in the summer months, you see about 50% of our total circulation is children's materials. Is pretty average. And then, you know, 25, and it kind of splits that way. So this year is just, it's like nothing else that we've seen. Some of the dips are more aggressive. So across the board, we're seeing about a 49% decrease. However, there's a 27% increase in those digital checkouts. And across the board, adult, teen, and youth are seeing a dip of about 68% from the previous year. Interestingly, though, our courier loans are through the roof. We're a 46% above last year's borrowed materials through courier and 55% above last year's lended materials via courier. So that's really curious to me. I'm not sure what has spawned that or if it's the types of things that people are looking for. But when I saw that, I thought that's really weird. So the courier service is busy. And it could be backlog stuff from the earlier parts of the months as other libraries are starting to get back into the courier service. They maybe have had materials stacked up since March that they're just now sending and wanting back. I think that's probably part of it. But I'll have to dig deeper into the specific titles just to see what the trend is there.
And when it comes to what's available digitally, and I only ask because just about everything I've put on my list has had an extremely long hold. And I know part of it is because everybody's having to go to some sort of digital format for what they're looking for. But how does the library determine how many of each you're going to have access to?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so the way that works is we run something called like a high demand list. And so we can see which titles have the most holds on them and then the average wait time for those holds. And what we try to do is go ahead and buy additional copies because the way that Reads works, right? It's this big like sharing consortium thing. And then within that, we can buy advantage titles, which are titles just for like our folks, but they're only for our folks for a short period of time, not forever. And then there's other titles that we can purchase called Lucky Day titles. And those are the ones that they're like non-reservable. So you may just log on and all of a sudden like this really popular book is available and you quick check it out and you quick read it and then it's done and it goes away. And then another person might get lucky. So that's the way that works. So we are using those lists, but the average cost of those materials is just so much higher. Those very popular titles for an ebook is going to run us, like $85, $90, $100, whereas we can buy a print copy for $15. So it's just cost prohibitive, but we are still funding it. You just don't get the bang for your buck with digital. And then some of them too are like metered. So we can only circulate it so many times before it goes away. So sometimes that happens too. It's just ebooks, and it's been this way for years. I remember working in libraries like in 2009, 2010 when it was new to download ebooks and circulate them. And we would joke that it was like the Wild West because the publishers and distributors were just changing the rules all the time. And it's still like that. So you think you have a handle on it. And then one will decide, we're not going to release our new books on digital copies for libraries for 6 months. And then they change their mind and then they change it back. And so it's been hard. But if there's something that you want, feel free to shoot me an email and I can see what we can do for you.
Thanks.
What other questions do y'all have?
That was kind of interesting just to hear how you acquire those electronic things. Because sometimes I get to an author and I really just read them rather randomly. And I really like that one. So I look for another one that they have. And then I look for another one and I find out there's a series. So now I got to go back and read them all in order. And so, you find out that doesn't always work because of availability when you're the 10th person on a, or no, I think as high as I've ever been was like the 50-something person on the list. So by the time I get the book, I forgot that I wanted it.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting to hear how that works.
Mm-hmm. It's not a perfect system. I wish that it were.
Well, I'm not complaining because, while I'm waiting for that one, I got 200 other more I could be, I'm working my way through.
Yeah. And I would certainly recommend you check those Lucky Day books because really that's going to be the best. I mean, you'll have a good chance of getting, if you're interested in like bestsellers, which my book club is notorious for picking out bestsellers. And so I always have to buy the copy myself and then I end up donating it to the library is what happens. But occasionally though, I can snag it as a Lucky Day book. Anything else? You'll hear more from me later anyway.
Okay. Just a couple of things for me. I'll be working with Julia this month to ready to present to you at the next meeting a training plan for our new members. We do have a fairly sophisticated training software package that Amy coordinates, and we'll get you going on that. One question for Amy, you said that they moved the tech grant deadline up?
Yes, they moved it back. It was supposed to be, I think, this or last week, maybe even, or maybe this week, I can't remember. But due to the CARES grant, we had way more requests for money from the CARES grant than we were able to fund. So they're having to create a formula and divvy out those funds in a fair way. So there may be things that people have requested on the CARES grant that they're not able to get, but they might be able to get on the tech grant. And we wanted people to have the chance to move those over once they find out how much they're going to be getting from the CARES grant. So they've extended the deadline to August 10th. As of right now, and hopefully we should be getting numbers from the CARES grant probably this week or next week. But that's a moving target too. We're waiting on some numbers from our fiscal department.
Okay, thank you. And
you're welcome.
Julia, how does that tech grant relate to the training, the number of board members we have that's gone through the training program?
Well, and fortunately, the tech grant, one of the things they use to look at that is that whether or not you've completed as a board member the trustee certification that the state does put out. And fortunately for us this year, we do have a couple of board members who have completed it on the board right now. But for next year, we will need everyone to have completed it to be sure. We have a plan to help upgrade our wiring in the facility using a combination of tech grant money as well as E-rate money. And that's sort of a long game plan. So E-rate is the funding that we use to help to pay for like our internet access here in the facility. It used to cover phones and now it doesn't, but it does cover internet access as well as some infrastructure projects. And so we want to try, but it's a beast. I mean, it's a lot of paperwork, but we want to try to use those federal dollars first because you don't have to match it. And then if whatever we can't pay for with that, that's when we want to roll in that tech grant money to do that big project. Because it's changing us to, I'm going to say it wrong, to CAT 4.
It's to CAT 6 from CAT 5.
CAT 6, I made up a number. I knew it was even, to CAT 6 from CAT 5, but it's wiring the whole building. So it's a huge project and will cost a lot of money, but it really needs to be done. And having an infrastructure in place, fortunately, that is good and stable makes our daily lives so much easier in this facility, and getting to that point, it'll be smooth. So we're looking forward to that, particularly as we have access to such high-speed internet now in downtown Johnson City. So long story short, Tony, we want to get everybody certified.
We want to get everybody certified. We think we'll be able to do it online.
We can, yes.
And we'll talk about that in more depth next month.
Correct.
June, and I'll get our heads together and do that. And I'm probably going to go through it again with you too. It was several years ago that I did that, so we'll do that. Also, as soon as we can, for the new members, if you haven't, we want to get you in the building and give you the grand tour, the back of the house tour with all the fun places. So we want to do that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So we'll do that with the new members and everybody that wants to.
I would enjoy that. I spent my daughter's high school years, she was in the color guard, and a couple of years they had winter guard in Freedom Hall. And so I got to know all the back nooks and crannies and everything in Freedom Hall. So anytime I go and sit, I go, and that's there, and that's there, and that's there. So that'll be interesting to see those back hallways.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
It's fun.
There's a bunch of back areas that you, we'll even take you, Michael, the tech guy, we'll take you to the air conditioner.
Oh, there you go. Then it's a really great tour. Just don't let them take you on the roof.
Oh, I like the roof. I'll take you on the roof. I don't care. I've been up there. It's good.
One of my goals this year is to really involve all of you as the board in the support of Julia and the library, and help in every way that we can. And I've told Julia to feel free to bring things to us that she needs to. And the other side of this is we're the board of directors. That means in some ways we want, Julia, we want to take some of the heat if you have to make a decision that's not popular. If something happens in the general public, we want to be there to back you in the library. So we want to be involved and want to be there for you. Low system, I've got a weird message. I don't know if you guys do. That says it has low system resources. The other thing is, Julia, tell us about the 1985 beer.
The 1895 is our signature. I thought I had a can behind me. Was released at Johnson City Brewing in back in June. Feels so long ago now. I'm looking at my calendar. June 25th. I knew I was close. But Johnson City Brewing did release our commemorative beer called the 1895, and it is a pre-Prohibition era style lager, but it kind of tastes like an MGD. So if you like a beer that tastes like a beer, this is the one for you. They do also have a one that was infused with I want to say it was pomegranate. Is that right? So there's one that's a little sweeter and lighter too. But we have some beautiful T-shirts that I can demonstrate right now. Oh, it does like a mirror image thing. But this is our design. So in the front of the T-shirt, you can see our lovely lady who is a ode to the founding mothers of the library. As you may know, we were founded by a women's club back in 1895. And so she's enjoying her beer and reading a book, of course. But T-shirts are available here in the building, and I'd be happy to give you one if you'd be interested. And I've got yours, Sarah, downstairs. Don't worry, it's got a sticky note on it. It's not going anywhere. But if you want one, let me know, and I will hang on to one for you. Before you can get
yes, I would like
that's
one.
why it's in my office. I'm sorry?
I'd like one.
Okay.
Yes, I would like one.
Daryl, I'll put
Yeah, and I'll take one. And listen, I was just thinking when Tony was mentioning the grand tour, is it possible that those of us who've been on the board but have never taken a complete tour join up, and then maybe we could take some portion of the certification process or courses, social distance in the Catherine Jones room?
That was, so originally, last time we did that, we had got everyone together, we had lunch, we kind of did it like a retreat, because the training is nice when you can pause it and talk about it. That's how it actually is beneficial. So the hope was to do something like that. We do have permission to do it virtually, so we could even do a combination whereby maybe we do half of it via Zoom, pause it, talk about it, and then we come in and we finish it together. And I would be happy to do that, Susie. I just think we should be mindful of watching cases and how spaces is available to do that. But I would love any of you to come and do an extended tour. And I think there's certainly value to doing it as a group because folks ask questions. So as long as you're wearing a mask, I think you won't get any dirty looks from staff.
Well,
We would love to.
Right.
if you missed getting a chance to get the beer, it was really good. We bought a flight of the beers, and hands down, the library's beer was the best, I thought.
Well, it was made with love.
My little group thought. So.
My mom keeps making coasters out of the can. She like cut them and is getting very crafty. So maybe I'll have coasters for you too.
So I'm looking forward to see what you come up with next to replace that.
All right, I'll do my best.
I think that's all I have. Amy, do you have a Holston River report?
Just a quick one. Welcome to all the new board members. This is a great board, so I think you're really going to enjoy your time here. I will be sending out some information about the trustee certification and some other things. I'm working on right now creating a trustee orientation packet that that tells a lot about the regional library system and what we do, and roles and responsibilities for board members and whatnot. So I'm hoping to get that put together probably in the next month or so, and I'll get that out to everybody. My goal is by a September meeting, so so be looking for that. And as always, if there are any questions, I need to go into another meeting right now, but if there are any questions, please feel free to contact me. Julia has my contact information. If I were there, I would hand you a card. But you're welcome to contact me or stop by my offices at any time. I'll be glad to help you out with anything you need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. I heard you gently mention Dustin's name in case we need some help. And so I appreciate the offer of a little bit of Dustin's time.
Yes, about that, we, there's only so much he can do right now. He's on extremely limited access due to all of the COVID issues. The IT service, which is outside of my control, but his bosses have dictated that they are to only go out to libraries in emergency situations. So if there is something that that you need in an emergency case, I'm glad you have the previous IT person coming in. I think that's probably your best move. We're not really familiar with your network and your system, and it's all very complex. But if there is something you need in an emergency basis, please give me a call. You can call me directly or Dustin at the help desk, and we can get you tied in with him to come out and help out with what you need.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Amy. And if you need to scoot for another meeting, that's fine.
Thank you.
Any questions or anything before we go into old business from anybody? Okay, let's go into old business, and you're going to tell us about that huge document that you sent us.
Yeah.
And
So
how complicated it is.
Did you say you love how complicated it is?
Ooh.
So I shared with all of you, and this is a document that has been a working document for a long time now. It's an adaptation from our emergency preparedness plan specific to COVID-19. I'm excited to say, and actually Tony is a lot of the reason we have an emergency preparedness plan to begin with. He encouraged it one of my first board meetings because we didn't have one. And so that was an early project that we completed. And then at that time, pandemic seemed so far-fetched. The pandemic plan was, I think, 1 page and maybe even like an attachment, an addendum. So now, of course, we have a much more thorough plan. And this plan has been created not just by me, but with a lot of help from many, many, many people. And actually, the whole staff has had input in this plan. And so it's very detailed. It's our document, which is why there's names in it. Ordinarily, you wouldn't see things like that in a plan of this sort, but because we're a small staff and we kind of know who's going to handle things, that's why there are places where it says Jolene, Xander. So just for us, because this is our plan. After we are through COVID, I will go through and like depersonalize it so that we can use it again and adapt it again and make recommendations for things that we could change or maybe do differently. So it is very much a living, breathing document. So it's like the Constitution in that way. It is an evolution. But right now we are in the curbside service phase of the plan, which is going, I think, well. Staff are working in the building. Most of them are working in the building for their whole schedule. Some folks do still work from home occasionally as their schedules allow. All PPE is provided to all employees when they're in the building, and they are required to wear it when they're in any parts of the building that are common areas. The only time that we take masks off really is if we're inside of our offices, or if you're in a kind of a cubicle isolated area and there's no one around. We have, where our workrooms are set up, when you do the tour, you'll see it's a pretty traditional like workroom, cube. But right now we have deployed almost all of those folks, except for one or maybe two, to other parts of the facility, to these little alcoves. So if someone's in their alcove by themselves, I mean, our ceilings are high, our ventilation is good, they are allowed to take off their masks. But if you go to the bathroom, or if you're in a circulation workroom or something, you wear the mask. And compliance has been very good. I don't want to say our staff is cagey, but they are certainly cautious. So they are happy to comply. So originally when we designed the plan back in March, and thinking of the different phases and indicators for when to switch between phases, we discussed having phase 3 is represented by a 14-day decline in active cases in Washington County. And phase 3 allows for limited access to the facility. So during phase 3, we would limit, folks could come in, we would limit the number of them in the building, of course, to allow for social distancing. It would be available for browsing only and material selection. There would be no seating and areas for public use. We will have computers available for 20-minute sessions, but that would be the only time that you could use a computer. And that's a redeployed lab in the Polly Peterson room in the front of the facility, so that folks who are just here for the computer are just walking right there by the front entrance. There's no reason to have someone walk through a whole building when they're here for a single purpose that we could meet so close to the entrance. Folks will be required to wear face coverings when they're in the building. Initially, we were told that that wasn't something we were allowed to require, but now the guidance from the city attorney is that we can require it. And if folks don't want to, we just need to make a reasonable accommodation to them. But so we could require. So that was a bit of a relief, because that was one of the big causes of concern for our staff and me, was just having anybody wander through and say, I don't want to wear a mask, and not be able to enforce it. But so that's good. So that's kind of what it would look like. During that, we would continue curbside, and we would really encourage curbside as a primary method of getting materials and print jobs. But for folks who just really want to browse, this was something that we decided as an option. But since we designed this with that 14-day decline as being the gold standard, things have changed. And now there's a lot of talk about the average number of new cases over a 14-day period, which is the barometer that public schools have started using, as well as senior centers and that kind of thing, for when they should allow folks to come in. And that's what they're calling the EpiCurve data. So I wasn't sure how familiar all of you are with this data point, and I don't want to bore you with details explaining something that you understand, but I'm happy to screen share and we can talk about it if you would like to. In addition to that, I think that what I have learned now that I reached out to the health department to get clarification about it, about what the EpiCurve data really meant, and why are we using something that was designed for nursing homes to decide whether we're going to open public schools. Like, I just had a lot of questions because I'm a librarian, and I was kind of told, well, it's the data point that exists. And so the opinion of the folks with whom I've been speaking at the health department is that we're sort of not the same, and we shouldn't necessarily base all of this exclusively on what is happening with the public schools and their choices. And this one data point, it should be a number of things like community spread versus cluster spreading is something that's probably more important to us as an organization. And so they encouraged a more holistic approach to identifying when we should open. Since that time, a lot has happened. And so those folks who were pretty involved in helping me are very, very busy right now, to say the least. And so I don't want to say that they are no longer connected, because I'm still going to attend another Zoom meeting with them Friday to learn more about the current situation in our area. But they simply just don't have the time to devote to helping us decide when to reopen. So I'm just going to continue to do what I can and coordinate with my colleagues in the region. I spoke with Richard Griffith, the director of Washington County Public Library, today, and we just kind of agreed that this is not the time for us to look at reopening. And so what I would like to do, and other libraries within our region are talking about doing, is simply asking our boards to examine the situation that we're in at a board meeting. And if we're ready, we're ready. If we're not, it means we are going to examine it again at the next board meeting. And that way, what is sort of the side effect of trying to be data driven is that our staff are in this constant cycle of preparing to open up next week, and then we don't. And so they're doing 2 schedules, and they're moving things and then moving them back. And it's just become physically and mentally so exhausting for them. I'm really becoming worried about like burnout. And I know we're all burnout and we're just all very tired of COVID right now. And so this is at least some piece that I could offer them and say the board is going to, and we can tell the public, the board has decided to re-examine it in 4 weeks when they meet again. And that way we have 4 weeks of new data to look at. I can talk to more colleagues and see what we think we should do. And we just look at the situation at the time. Because right now we're meeting and, you know, we don't know for sure if the schools are going to open on August the 10th. And it's hard to imagine the schools open and us closed, but at the same time, it's very hard to imagine the schools open. So if it's okay for you, what I would really like to do is, I think I know that we don't want to open yet, but I'd like to ask you to just examine this again at the next meeting and try to go from meeting to meeting for when it's appropriate for us to go to phase 3. I think we can sustain with curbside service for a while. It's being handled extremely safely. The staff are comfortable with that. The public seems comfortable with it. And we will continue to find other ways to further enhance curbside service and do more to support the community. But as far as letting the public in the facility, I just don't feel that it's the time.
I fully agree. And my study of the EpiCurve data that you sent us says that even the EpiCurve would not allow you following the EpiCurve. We're far exceeding its limits. So it's, you know, I'm very comfortable with not opening. Would you like a motion and vote on that, or just?
No, I think that as long as there's a discussion, and then as long as there's not a motion to open, the current plan calls for a 14-day decline. So there's no reason to believe that we should open before that. The plan is not, as I said, it's a tool, it's not policy. So I think that the bigger change is going to be, if we're going to look at a different data set, we all really need to be in agreement on that. And I feel like meeting to meeting is going to give us a better handle on all of the factors than just one data point.
Any thoughts from anybody?
So let's say in August things turn for the better, which would be wonderful, although I'm not sure I quite think that's going to happen. But what's sort of your turnaround time, Julie, do you think, if the board at the next meeting said, okay, we're in a good spot? Is it a week, 2 weeks? Is it the next month? Do you have a sense of that yet?
I do. I think we could do it in about 5 working days. So our meetings are on Tuesdays. I think that if we had, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday to get everything ready, and then if we reopened Wednesday, but then, and this is going to sound, but then advertised it as the following Monday, it would give us 3 days to kind of do a soft opening, make sure we're comfortable with everything, and we would advertise it as that following Monday. So 5 working days before a soft opening is what I think we could do and do well.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you.
Both those parts make a lot of sense.
Go ahead, Susie, sorry.
Well, what I would envision that you would allow a limited number of people in at a time and say you're welcome to be here for an hour, and then you have to move on to another group. I would think that would be something to explore.
We did talk about doing time limits where we will limit the number of people in the facility to 50 attendees at a time. And that's based on our square footage, staffing, and then the amount of space that the stacks actually take up to allow for social distancing. The folks that have opened up have said that it hasn't been an influx of people. They have not noted, there were not lines out the door, which has been our biggest fear, that how do we accommodate lines of people waiting, and then they're clustering, and then they're outside, and how do we space them there? And it just kind of has spiraled. So I was relieved to hear that, but we just felt like limiting time in a facility this large was just not a reasonable burden to put on ourselves, particularly since we're only open for browsing. There won't be seating. So I don't think we'll have issues with folks just spending the whole day. I think if we notice someone here for a long time and folks are waiting, that might be when we try to start implementing something to encourage folks, or we'll do, like we talked about, doing something over the PA where we just say, if individuals are waiting to come into the facility, if you've been here more than 45 minutes, we ask that you make your selections and check them out at this time. We want to be as welcoming and friendly to people because that's our nature as librarians, but we also, we want them to follow the rules and keep everybody safe too. It's a tough one.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay. And we have begun ordering things, and for the process, like we have some samples in now of our floor markers and directional arrows in the stacks, and we have a rack card that we're going to give people when they come in that kind of just says, like, you're welcome to browse, you're welcome to do this. These collections aren't available right now because we're not going to have any magazines or newspapers or that kind of thing. So we're very much prepared. We just will need several days to move all of those folks from their workstations is the main thing leading up to it when the time comes.
Okay. But
if you're happy to take it up again in August, I know our staff will be relieved to have a few weeks of calm.
I'm very comfortable with that. Unless there's some objection from some of you, we'll go with that.
Okay. I think it's a good plan.
Thank you.
We're going to move on and to new business, unless there's any other old business that anybody remembers. New business, we've got 2 budgets to approve.
Hey, money time.
I'm going to mute.
She's muting me. No, she's not. I'm going to go to account groups, and I'm going to make this as easy as possible for me too, because there's a lot in here. But if you look at the revenues, and it's the page that looks like this, and it's the most current one that you received.
Do you want me to share screen, Kathy?
That would be good.
Okay.
This is the document that you sent out just today or yesterday?
Today.
Okay.
And the reason that it was updated.
I have to go.
Okay. Bye, Susie.
I have to go, but I read everything, and if you need a silent vote, I think you all have done a good job to budget everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that coming from a county commissioner. I know you have a hard job.
All right, see ya.
Bye, Susie. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So the revenue side, these are actual figures. We are receiving the $1,930,825 from the city, which is the $50,000 increase that we requested. And the $100,000 from the county is the same amount that we've received since we moved into this building in 1999. And everything else is reflective of a decrease in, we're not going to make money on fines, fees. We're not going to generate revenue like we are used to doing when we're open. And those are fairly large decreases, and we were losing revenue anyway because folks were doing a great job getting their books back, and they were paying fewer fines and not losing so much. We're not going to be doing printing and copying. A couple of things, if you go down to 410931 in the grants, what that is those are unfunded, of course, until we actually receive a grant. And at some point, I will come back with an amended budget request and ask you to put money in there when we find out if we're going to get an LSTA grant or other grant revenue. The E-rate reimbursement, I will tell you, because we are now with Bright Ridge, the thing that's happened is Schools and Libraries Corporation cut our percentage of reimbursement to 60%. At one point, we were at 80%, maybe 90%, and that's based on the free lunch program in Johnson City. So our cost actually did go down, but our reimbursement for E-rate is at 60% of actual cost, and that's how much that we will be eligible for in reimbursements through the Schools and Libraries Corporation for this fiscal year. That's a huge decrease, but it's not so bad because we're not going to be paying as much up front. Any questions about revenues at all? Some of those line items, again, that are at zero will be funded in the future when we start seeing how that goes. So we'll go to personnel, and we did have some vacancy savings this past year. We did have some slight, we needed to tweak our pay scale and the people that were in certain areas. This was a 3-year project with the City of Johnson City, and while we weren't able to do everything that we'd like to have done, we feel like that everyone is on a fair and equitable line right now in our pay scale. So that is reflective of that. And of course, Social Security is 7.65% of your total wages. And then medical insurance, you know, I have no idea how we're going to come in this year as far as our renewal. That happens in December. Yes, we had some savings this past year, and it was under $150,000, but I'm not under any delusions that we're not going to have some type of increase. Even the industry standard seems to be about 9% increase per year on your medical insurance premiums. But we'll be talking more about that after it comes up in December. Our workers' comp is already in. It's a little under $2,500. We have one person that used to work here that applied for unemployment, and because she was here long enough, we are the employer of record and we're being billed for some state unemployment. I don't think it's going to be that much, but we are a reimbursing employer and we don't pay premiums, which is actually to our advantage. And so there's an increase there in the personnel expense, but the increase I want you to know is not that big because we actually reduced it so much this fiscal year. It's just getting our people back on board and hiring for some vacant positions. And that's what we're in the process of doing right now in our personnel. And any questions about that group? The support services, those are just the things that keep us going. And those numbers have remained pretty much the same for a very long time. We are doing so much better with telephone. We're able to decrease that. We're with Bright Ridge now. We only have some POTS lines, or plain old telephone service lines, and that's for our elevators and our fire alarm and security system, which we absolutely have to have by law. And of course, we want to fund our public relations, and it's a little bit of a decrease. We may need some more money in there at some point just to make sure we're letting people know what we're doing. But that's actually a net decrease of that account group over this current year. Building operations, I'm leaving pretty much the same. And that's simply because being closed, we're not using as much water. We're not using nearly as much electricity as what you'd think. There was a great deal of savings for a full month that we were closed. We went from roughly a $5,200 a month electric bill to $2,900. And that's not every month. We're back up somewhat, and it's been around 97 degrees, 104 in the sun. So we're using a little bit more air conditioning, but I do anticipate that remaining the same. Then our technical services account group, the same. Don't need to worry about that. The big thing here is materials and services. And I think if Julia rolls it up to right about there, this is where, when she was talking to you about our electronic services, our adult books at this point last year actually started at $57,000. And we took $5,000 and put it in electronic this past fiscal year. We're putting another $5,000 into adult books. So that $55,011 difference is down into $55,071, which is now $23,660. And that's going to allow for quite a few electronic materials. Julia's right. I see those invoices, and it's a big chunk for an electronic book opposed to a printed book. But I think the value is there, of course, for our patrons, because honestly, that's the safest way to check them out. I think we're doing a great job with curbside quarantining books, cleaning them. I take them out every Monday along with Julia. That's our admin day to help out on curbside. So I feel very safe with that. And I feel safe taking them home myself because I'm checking out our books as well. But we're allowing for additional funds. And this is the first year that the electronic materials have been broken down into adult, juvenile, and young adult. We need to start tracking those so that we can see where we are and where we need to be, and perhaps move more from actual physical materials into those electronic materials. And the FOL part there, that's unfunded until we ask them for money. So we're not going to be doing anything with that until later on. Our friends of the library are very generous, and all we have to do is ask. They're a wonderful group of people. And then information technology, we do have to match LSTA grants. And therefore in 5601, that needed to have extra money in there, just in the event we have a $15,000 LSTA grant that we get, then we need to match 15,000. And then of course, with an IT person, they always have money. They always need to spend money for IT. You cannot go a year without the IT person saying, I got to have this, that, or the other. And it's just things break down. It's electronics, but that's still not a whole lot of money. And the other things in there, you know, software, printer, copier maintenance, the ILS maintenance, we're at the end of our 7 years on our current Cersei Dynex system. And Julia will tell you more about that in future months. That ILS maintenance, it could go down in future years. And then if you're looking at equipment and software maintenance, $32,000, a huge chunk of that is for our RFID is for our equipment. And when you guys get to come in and see the, you know, how we check in books and our materials handling, you'll understand, you know, the benefit of having that and how quickly we can get materials back out to the public. So that is a decrease. I'm not saying that it'll stay that way because generally we need to pump that back up. And then going down to just miscellaneous, those are things that happen throughout the year. You know, if an account group or a line item is not, if you can't find somewhere to put it, there you go, 5701, that's where we put it. Not a lot of money there. It's just to catch those things that don't fit anywhere else. And then our security is the Johnson City Police Department. They work, right now they're working 7-hour shifts because they stay with us while we're doing curbside. But in a normal year when we're open, they work 4-hour shifts, roughly 5, 6, 7 times a week. They do cost $25 an hour, but their services are invaluable because they know the area, they know the people, and we feel exceptionally safe having those people here with us. And they are working extra duty, which benefits them, and they're also city employees. They're not ours, they're contract labor, so we're not having to do any type of workers' comp or benefits for them. They get a 1099 at the end of the year instead of a W-2 form. And there we go. If you look at our lost revenue from fines and fees, 24,500, I do anticipate that's going to be higher. Restricted for Artful Aging Program, this was a grant we had a few years back, and we do need to spend that money in the manner in which the grant stated. And hopefully we can do that this fiscal year. We had it planned for this past April with an author event that just didn't happen. And then the ETSU Elevates grant also went by the wayside with the coronavirus pandemic. That was a $5,000 grant, which you great ETSU folks probably know a little bit about. And it was planned for some wonderful programs, which unfortunately just didn't happen. Those will go into restricted funds. You'll see those on our balance sheet after the fiscal year closes so that we can spend those funds and those dollars in the manner in which they were intended. So yes, we are going to dip into our fund balance. It's a healthy one. We didn't, if you look back at the financial statement, and this isn't going to be the end of it, but we're roughly 86,000. Let me double check here before I say that. Before I make any adjustments to the wages payable, we're $81,000 in the black. And that's a good place in which to be, but there's roughly going to be about, I want to say $25,000 in wages payable. We're just going to spend that money we saved. And that's in a nutshell. I apologize if I went too quickly, but I probably could spout this thing off from memory by now. This is where we start, and we'll come to you and talk to you throughout the year, and you'll get a report every single month on how we're doing.
Okay. Questions? I know it's confusing, it still is after several years, but it slowly begins to make sense. And Kathy can give you details off her head on most of these issues. So if you have questions.
And feel free to call me at any time. I love to talk money. Just make sure you got, a cup of coffee and a little bit of time, and we'll go over it a little bit more if you like. I'm always happy to do that. But you'll be seeing this every single month in your financial statements, and it will translate. These numbers translate into the actual statement that was a draft this time, but that will be your final one in August. So I'll have a July and August June and July rather financial statements for you in August.
Okay. We need to approve this. This is an action item. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. And the Imagination Library is going to go a whole lot faster. And you didn't get a new one. This is the same one from the board packet. We were reduced by the county. We got a cut of $7,500. And I am confident that in this year, because of all the savings and all the measures that we put into place, that will be perfectly fine. We're not going to suffer for that. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, it's a whole lot easier for me to raise money for Imagination Library than to keep the lights on. So if it comes up and I need to start beating the bushes and start writing grants and asking people for help, I certainly will. But we have some retained earnings in that as well. And that's for that very reason. You never want to have a zero fund balance on anything. So at the end of the year, we're going to be healthy enough to sustain the $7,500 cut for 1 year. I'm not saying that we should keep it forever, but I do also understand that the county was in a situation where they were going to cut. And I'm glad they didn't cut the library, because then we would have been in a situation where the maintenance effort would have been violated simply because they didn't fund us at the same level as last year. But on this one, we're looking at revenues of $63,800. And I do think that the monthly book purchases should stay around the 63,000 total level. And so I'm planning on a zero retained balance on that one. Money in, money out. And that's all its intent is anyway, so that we can get the other half of the money it takes to purchase the Imagination Library books, because the Governor's Books and Birth Foundation funds the other half. So in a given month, our invoice from the Dollywood Foundation is around $10,500. And of that, we raise half of it, and then the Governor's Books and Birth Foundation, they pay the other half. And that will sustain Washington County for the upcoming fiscal year.
Questions? Okay, may I have a motion on this budget proposal?
Everybody's muted.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Is that unanimous?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
That is our agenda for this particular meeting. It's been a good meeting. Anything, Julia, that you have for us at the end here?
No, just thank you all. I assure you, to our new board members, this is the longest meeting of the year. I know it's been, but thank you. It's been great getting to know you all a little more, and it's going to be a great year.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to working with you this year.
Thank you, Tony. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Everybody.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank
Everybody,
you.
see ya.
Bye, everybody.